Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 11 of School Business Tech. Today, in this episode, I'll be talking with Michael Forshaw, CEO of EdTech Impact, about the need for a digital strategy in schools and how this can influence procurement and the impact this can have on achieving return on investment with education technology. Unquestionably, the adoption of technology has accelerated in this last 12 months, and many are committed to continuing this new way of life. However, what is your strategy for a digital future? Does your school even have a plan? And do you know if you're getting value for money or not with the education technology that you're purchasing or have purchased? Using technology can obviously amplify efficiency, but only if your school can harness the benefits through implementation and adoption. In general, there's more than one technology supplier for any tool or task or anything that you're trying to achieve, and each has their similarities, but also each has their differences. So how does a school choose between one and the other to make sure they can justify their investment? For those of you that haven't heard of Michael, and many of you will have, for the last 15 years, Michael has been championing the user-led product reviews of education technology products. This started in the well-known Innovate My School, which achieved a global community of 50,000 readers and is now culminated in EdTech Impact, which is the world's first independent review platform for over 1,500 education technology products. Michael has led digital strategies within schools and has been elected executive council member at BESA, so the British Educational Suppliers Association. He's also a member of the Department for Education's EdTech Leadership Group and recently co-founded the EdTech Evidence Group with 9 of the UK's leading EdTech businesses. Good afternoon, Michael. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Ryan.
That's all right. And listen, it's great to have you here. You know, you come with a lot of credential and obviously been in the industry a long time. So thank you very much for taking some time out and joining me today.
It's great to be here, yeah. I've got a lot more grey hair. You can't quite see it since I started out. But yeah, I hadn't realised I'd been in it 15 years.
Well, we were saying the other day, weren't we, that we both. I obviously met you in the very early days. You, yes, have a few more grey hairs. I have less hair, so like it's kind of like just how it does when you're working in education. But if we can, get moving with the first question today, which is, why is it important that schools have a digital strategy?
Yeah, I think to answer this, I just want to step back and be like, and talk about how schools have procured and how they've adopted tech in the past. And I think generally it's been quite piecemeal from what we've seen. There's often been a lack of a strategy or a vision, really, which has led to lots of, I think, negativity and risk and concern when it comes to using tech. We've had this kind of cupboard of shame, or virtual cupboard of shame that we hear bandied around now. I think the way in which schools have been sold to through tech, through quite aggressive various tactics, has led to lots of products being adopted and then not being used. And then, fast forward to what we've just had in the last 12 months, rapid adoption of technology almost in every school, and mass trialing of various products in different shapes and forms. And I think, the good outcomes of that, there's an increased confidence now around technology. Almost every school in England has adopted Google Classroom or Microsoft. We've seen things like virtual parents' evenings now. And some sophisticated types of tools have been used around personalized learning. So, we've got a wealth of data and there's a wealth of options. Having run Innovate My School and EdTech Impact for many years, so you mentioned 1,500 products, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much choice out there. And I think we're now in a position where every school has adopted a strategy of sorts, I would say. That you've got really immature, basic levels of using tech and flipping face-to-face teaching online and various school management tech being used and starting to save workload. But, now we can have a chance to plan properly for the future. And I think to answer your question, why do we need a strategy? So we can plan where we're going and so we can evaluate our progress as we get there. I think that they're the key things. And I would urge every school, and I'm seeing lots of other schools, start to audit their ecosystem of EdTech products. Like, where are you now? Where do you want to be? What do people actually think of these tools? And I think understanding through deep levels of feedback, qualitative and quantitative, is a great place to start. And then you can start to build this perhaps aspirational strategy rather than a strategy based on pain points and plasters. I think we can start to be quite aspirational around technology. And I think, yeah, we're starting to see lots and lots of examples of some schools really pioneering the use of technology beyond the classroom, beyond the school day. And I think it's an opportunity to learn from that, to learn from all this mass trial that's just gone on, and put the strategy that your staff want, that your school vision can align to now.
Yeah, I mean, so it's really interesting that you talk about that audit and the review period, because one of the previous episodes we had Russell Dalton, who was, a business and finance director for a multi-academy trust of like 15 primary schools, and he was saying exactly the same thing. The almost the cupboard of shame, the amount of software licenses, and I know Johnny Coates, who's one of the school business. Who was part of another episode as well, just talked about that kind of audit and how much stuff is being procured and what's actually really having an impact. So what factors should you consider when procuring technology then, if you're a school?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. And we surveyed our readers at EdTech Impact recently, and 96% of them said that they do their research now before they even speak to a supplier. So, if you're a supplier selling to schools, like, they're already looking at you. They're looking to find out as much as they can about who you are, who your competitors are. Are you somebody I should trust, ultimately? And I think that's what it boils down to. And one of the other things from our survey was 79% said that they want to know, does the solution work? Does it work in a school like mine? But only 8% said that they actually trust the claims being made by the suppliers. So I think, schools are starting to ask better questions and becoming a more discerning customer when it comes to procurement. I think on the supplier side, it is about transparency and evidence now. On the school side, yeah, I mean, ultimately, is the product even going to work in your ecosystem? So does it interface with Google Classroom now or Microsoft? Like,
yeah,
and some schools, like, that's a no-brainer. What's the data security like? So, is it GDPR compliant? You'd hope so. Who's the data controller? Is it the school? Is it the teacher? Is it the supplier? If it's the supplier, that's cool, but why? You're gonna sell the data. You're gonna advertise to me. Is it accessible? Can it be used by all students and teachers? And then I think, I'm sure business managers are aware of this one, but the end of contract. We're talking about technology. We're talking about data. Can we easily transfer that data between systems if we decide not to go with you anymore? And there's lots of questions that can be asked, and I think schools should go all out on interrogation with the EdTech suppliers. And then the last one really is show me the evidence. I think, when it comes to a learning tool, yeah, I mean, is it being used by a school like mine? And if so, what kind of impact can I expect on my educational outcomes, student outcomes, improving attainment, student knowledge, collaboration, teacher outcomes, improving the teacher knowledge, reducing their workload, parent outcomes, parent engagement, whole school efficiencies, perhaps saving schools money as well. I think these are the ones to lead on.
Yeah, definitely. I think the impact piece is a real, the evidence around impact and the way it's changing learning, I think is really important, because, there's so many systems out there, and there's a ton of what looks like great resources, and I can see how that kind of, they're almost like the marketing man's dream, like there's all this exciting, shiny, wow, look at these things. But actually, is it really going to make a difference? And it's interesting because, one of the future episodes we've got coming on is talking about Power BI and dashboards, and the fact that data is really necessary in education now, because there's so much opportunity, there's so much choice, but I think there's almost so much emotion behind it, and really, anxiety as well, to make sure that you get it right, that sometimes people can make snap decisions. They're emotive rather than driven by data. And, we saw that throughout the pandemic. Let's follow the data. Let's follow the science. And I'm not saying that's the right thing all the time, but I think that's definitely is something that needs to be more prevalent in decision making. So just on that point, how do you measure return on investment? Like, how do I know that £1 is actually worth spending if I'm a school and putting that down towards a product?
Yeah, it's about so you can ask the suppliers for their own evidence, but I think ultimately you've got to collect your own as a school, and this is obviously a challenge when workload is high. It really depends, and I'm sure every researcher will say to you, it depends on the product. It depends on what you want to measure. Like, what's the metric ultimately? If it's a learning tool, you could start with some simple user surveys or interviews, just collect some anecdotal qualitative feedback. You could go further and start to do some pre and post assessments, establish your baseline. If you're looking at school management tech, then yeah, what's the metric? Is it about saving money? Is it about reducing workload? It's about the baseline ultimately, and then measuring before and after. I think a lot of the platforms will be able to collect a lot of data that could be used as well to evidence this. So work closely with the supplier. I think every supplier is trying to build their evidence base. So in terms of ROI, I just think it's about creating that evaluation loop permanently and trying to embed that really into school operations, and on the supplier side, the same. Bake it into your customer success, and then your evidence base is continually building. This is what we're helping suppliers do with reviews through EdTech Impact. We're creating this feedback loop between their customers around the thing that their customers care most about, their impact. So yeah, I think we start to do these type of things, then the evidence base across not just one type of school, but a variety of schools with different characteristics will start to grow, and we can all make better decisions, basically.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I would say, I don't know whether you've noticed, but it's certainly in the commercial industry, this kind of the rise of the customer success role, you kind of alluded to it there, that's come through industry now. And so if I purchase a software product from a provider, they'll give, especially if it's of a certain value, they'll go, I'm your customer success, manager. And what that actually is that person's like, they don't really want you to just use the tool. They want you to get the result from the tool that you're expecting. And that, I think, is a big, big step change in industry, and certainly in the software industry, because before it was like, I will sell you my software products. I will give you an instruction manual and training. I might even set it up for you. But like, ultimately, if you don't get the result out of it, it's not my product's fault. That's your fault because you didn't use it. Now, certainly in industry, the commercial companies are taking that responsibility because they want the retention, they want the renewal. They also know that there is a far more competitive environment out there, so that they need to be actually making sure that customers are getting the intended impact, the result that they're looking for. And do you see that now coming into education? That's, broadly, that's the step change that we're going to see in the future. Absolutely.
We are all consumers. We're all buying things online now. And I think what we're seeing outside of education, it's SaaS, it's software as a service products that we're signing up to subscriptions now. That supplier wants to make sure that you renew that subscription at the end of the month or the year. It's not a one-time fee anymore. So yeah, the customer success is absolutely critical. And I think, in education, way back when you had hair, sell their products and then that's it, done, job done. Yeah. Now it's a partnership, and a partnership through evidence, a partnership to achieve the impact we want to achieve. And so, yeah, I think it's being influenced from outside of education in other worlds. This is why reviews are becoming a more important part around this transparency of who you are and what you're going to do in my school and what do others say about you.
Very good, very good. And so my final question, which I ask every single guest, and I'm really intrigued to hear what you've got to say, but tell me, Michael, what's your predictions for school business technology over the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think we'll continue to adopt more tech. I think schools will grow in their knowledge of what a good product looks like, and their procurement process will become deeper and more comprehensive, which is great. I think we'll build up more system resilience to enable learning anywhere. From the supplier side, I think, yeah, you talked about dashboards and data. I think that's going to be at the forefront of everything. And I think hopefully we'll see a more more efficacy, I suppose, around the impact the products are having. And from a government side, I always like to drop it in. I really, when Damien Hines launched the EdTech strategy in 2019, the main driver was reducing workload. It's difficult to know if they'll go back to that. I know there's going to be a version 2 coming out soon. So if that's the case, then school management tech is going to play a critical role in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought it was a great initiative, but it is interesting to see, obviously, they kind of said, oh, we'll support suppliers and bring them into the industry, but then they've done their own thing with, they've launched DFE Digital. I mean, I don't even know what that's about. I don't think anybody knows, but they're hiring, a lot of kind of technology developers, all sorts of stuff, which is really strange. And it's not something that I thought they'd get into. And I think there's obviously they did things around Oak, and that seems to be getting bigger and bigger. So where do all these other businesses that were kind of told come and play fair, come and play nice, come and come to the market? Where do you think they're going to sit?
It's so hard selling to schools, particularly in England. There's this myth that I can just sell to a mat and I'll get rolled out. It is quite fragmented. So it's interesting to see things like Oak and the national platform and lots of money swimming around. But I really hope that the DFE comes back to making it easier to reach schools and improving group deals. So there's more economies of scale.
Yeah.
I think, the general perception and from EdTech suppliers is to just double down on your effectiveness and your transparency and your evidence. And, has Oak taken lots of business away from you in the last year? A lot of them are saying, no, it hasn't, and there's a reason schools trust you now, because you've had years of quality customer success and support, and you have a great platform. So I think, back yourself and just keep doing all of that, the good things you've been doing anyway. And then we'll see what the government decides to do.
Double down. That's the tip from today. Love that. Listen, Michael, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you taking some time out for your day to come and talk to us and join me on this episode. For all of you who are still watching, please go onto YouTube. Check out, if you can't find us directly, go search School Business Tech on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you stay up to date with all the future episodes. And once again, just thank you, Michael, for coming and joining us today. Make sure you check him out on Twitter. Make sure you check him out on LinkedIn. And hopefully we'll catch up again soon. All right. Take care. Thank you.